what I decided to do, I decided that I'll prepare everything, whatever you guys want to talk about. So, I said I'll prepare one class on parenting, one class on marriage, and one class on relationships, and then one on every other subject.
Can we do the parsha?
Well, we do one that's more textual.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Sit down, Tom.
I actually have restless leg syndrome, and if I sit down,
that's fine.
I had to take my pill earlier. And if I sit down, my leg goes crazy, and it drives me nuts. It's weird.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
So you'll last very long in the yeshiva, by the way.
Yeah, I can just stand all day. I'm good.
So I wanted to talk about something maybe which would encompass all those subjects and also incorporate the parsha or a recent parsha. So we're the Torah. Like so, you pointed out that you have the Tanakh there, the Jewish Bible.
Yeah.
That has how many books in the Jewish Bible?
5.
Hello.
No, in the Torah has 5.
32.
You got the
There?
Kings and
You got a book of Kings.
Okay.
you got the Psalms,
You got Psalms.
and then you got the books.
So you say 7. So we know that there's 5 books in the Torah, right? Bereshit, Shemot, right? Genesis.
There's about 13 others or something.
13 Psalms, right?
Oh, and that's like
13 Kings.
Yeah, okay, so these are all guesses, I assume, right?
Yeah,
There's 100.
I used to know.
Okay, so there's 24 books in the Jewish canon. 24
I break
books.
everything up.
Now, the first 5 of them, what comprise the Torah? Right? The 5 books of Moses. Those are Genesis, obviously. Exodus, see the movie coming out. A student of mine is like, are you going to see the movie? I see all these previews. Yeah, I don't know. Just send me the reviews and the feedback. Because most people...
It's good for a class.
Well, maybe. It's very long, I think. It's probably an epic. But
The
most
old one
people
was
like...
6 hours long.
With the Ten Commandments.
The Exodus.
With the Ten
It
Commandments?
had nothing to do with the book. It was with the boat Exodus going to Israel in 1946. After
Exodus from Leon Uris.
Yeah.
Leon
Yes,
Uris.
that was really
that
good.
Exodus, yeah. That was 6 hours. Paul Newman, yeah.
So most people, like most Jews today, know more about the Ten Commandments, the film, than what it actually says in the book, in Exodus. 1956.
I never saw the whole movie.
Yeah, it's too long. Charlton Heston, that's right. So we have 5 books of the Torah: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And then we have all the other books. We have the books of Joshua and Judges and Kings. Someone mentioned the book of Samuel.
Solomon.
Well, Solomon is in the book. You'll find him in the book of Samuel, the book of Kings, primarily the book of Kings. All these other books. Some more people joining us here.
Shalom Cypress. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good to see you.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Well, to say hi.
So if we have 24 books in the canon, anyone knows by any chance when these 24 books, who decided what books are included, what books are not included? No one has any idea? Random house. So we have 24 books, but we have books that were not included, right? For example, there's books like we were about to approach the holiday of Hanukkah, and there was a Jewish book written by contemporaries of the story called the Book of Maccabees. Is that right? And is that part of the Jewish Bible?
No.
It's not. So why not? Why was one book included, one book not included? Interesting, huh? So the answer is that there was an assembly of scholars in the 4th century before the Common Era called the Men of the Great Assembly. Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. It was a 120 member body that existed for about 110 years. In fact, the modern day Knesset in Israel, everyone familiar with the Knesset, the legislative body in Israel, is comprised of 120 Knesset members, because it's modeled after this group, this body that was existed in the 4th century before the Common Era. The big names that you guys might know are Ezra, famous Ezra the scribe. Anyone heard that name?
Yeah, he wrote the whole thing.
Whoa.
I wouldn't say he wrote the whole thing, yeah, but
He didn't write
he
the whole
decided
So exactly. So he's part of this group that decided which books are included, which books are not included. So anything that came subsequently, like 200 years later, we have the story of Hanukkah, and we have the subsequent book of that story with the book of the Maccabees. That's not included because it came post facto. The last book to be included, incidentally, is the book of Esther, because the story of Esther and Purim happened in between the first and second temple. So we're talking about the year 360 before the Common Era, roughly 15 years before the convention of these assembly of rabbis. Hence, it was the last book to be included because it happened right before them. So we have these 24 books. Now we also have part of what of the corpus, or not the corpus, or the philosophy, or the practice of what we have as Jews. Not just the books, we also have commandments, the mitzvot. So, and where the mitzvot come from? Where do they come from?
Some comes literally from God.
From God as manifest, as written in
The Torah, in the five
Well, you have
books.
the
And then you have the
written
oral
books,
and the
written
rabbinical.
Well, okay, so fine. So how many of the mitzvahs are written in the 5 books, and how many are written in the other 19? Anyone knows?
613 is written in the 5 books.
And how many mitzvahs are included in the other 19 books of the Bible? That's right. There's none.
Yeah,
That's
but
right.
you can't add or delete, right?
Well-
Either or delete.
Well, I'm saying we have 7 rabbinic mitzvahs, but of the 613 Torah mitzvahs that are based in the books that are written down, all of them are the Torah.
Which one are the 7?
The list. One of them is Hanukkah. To light Hanukkah candles, to light Shabbat candles as well. To read the Megillah on Esther. I believe the mitzvah of one of the Eruvs. I have this list. It's funny because someone recently asked me that same question. I don't remember. And then if I would have checked it up after I spoke to him, I would have had the answer like that. You'd be impressed. 7 mitzvahs. When someone told me, when you talk about rabbinic law, the vast majority of those are not their own mitzvahs, but rather they're safeguards for existing mitzvahs.
Right.
So the classic example is if the Torah tells us on Shabbat we can't write on Shabbat. That's one of the prohibited acts on Shabbat. Well, the rabbis come along and they say don't lift a pen, because lifting a pen may bring about encroaching on the Torahitic mitzvah of not writing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of what when the rabbis are instructed in the Torah to make fences around the Torah. Asum b'shmeret l'mishmarti, make a fence around the Torah. It means to make some sort of prevention or some sort of safety measure to ensure that the Torah mitzvahs themselves are being fulfilled and the prohibitions are not being transgressed.
Or how to specifically fulfill, for example, the mezuzah.
The mezuzah, yeah.
In the Torah, it says just paint it in your door and whatever, but it doesn't say it has to be like
The Torah doesn't give us the details.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
There are a few very good examples about that where we have the Torah tells us about an idea, but it doesn't give us the details. Like for example, we have kosher meat. So everyone here familiar?
It doesn't say that.
In the Torah.
Well, it
It
says
says
in the
no
Torah
What kind of animal?
in Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse
It says
21.
I kill how you showed me.
Exactly.
How I showed you,
You guys
right,
are good. You guys are really good. You're ahead of the game.
Well, you say you want us engaged.
That's exactly what I meant. I'm happy. I got to raise the bar, you know. So, and there's another place this you probably don't know, where it talks.
I don't know anything.
No, because I need to feel that you guys are so smart. Yeah, really. You know every example where the Torah indicates another.
Listen to him read the Torah. Then
Yeah.
you'll really be
So there's
impressed.
another place. There's another place there's another mitzvah in the Torah. And in fact, this is one of the mitzvahs that when I went to rabbi school, they said, listen, there's some things that we don't talk about, right? And then there's some things that we really, really, really don't talk about, and then there's this. And this mitzvah in the Torah, it says specifically. I was curious to know what it is, right?
Yes.
Okay, if you're well behaved.
We don't talk about it, but he's going to talk about it real
Do we
quick.
need to know the handshake
Are we
first?
strong enough? Are we strong enough to handle
What do we have to lose, right? You know that
You have to say
my
a
brother
blessing
always
before
says,
you-
he says, listen, there's something I don't talk about. I don't talk about the Holocaust. I don't talk about homosexuality. That's what he says. And I talk about everything. That's always prefaced my whenever I talk about the Holocaust. I say, my brother doesn't talk about it, but I will. But the other mitzvah that it talks about is a very bizarre instruction we get a few times, primarily in the middle of Exodus, we get an instruction to obliterate an entire nation.
Yeah.
Man, woman, child, and even animal. And that's the nation of Amalek. Amalek.
Yeah.
Very bizarre. It's
we
the
didn't do
kind.
it.
Yeah, well, Solomon screwed up by not doing it. Right, Solomon's not Solomon.
Yeah.
Not Solomon. I apologize. Saul. The king Saul screwed up big time, and that's why he lost his kingship. That's correct. That's what he didn't kill the animals and didn't kill the king Agag, and eventually that brought about Haman. And we could safely assume, and I'm willing to bet almost everything that Hitler is and the idea is it's the epitome of evil. It's not evil that can be reasoned with, and it's hell bent on destroying the Jews. Hook or crook, hell or high water. So it says over there when it gives the instruction to decimate, to destroy, to obliterate, to wipe off the face of the earth any remnant of these people. It says the Almighty instructs Moses, "Sov zos b'sefer, write this in a book, v'sim ba'oznei Yehoshua, and place in the ears of Joshua." So obviously, it's clearly evident in the text that while elements of it were written in the book, right? So write this in a book. But other elements of the mitzvah were transmitted orally. So that's another example that you can have in your arsenal where it says, where the Torah clearly itself, the written Torah itself, indicates that there's some other oral element to the instruction as well. So we have the Torah, we have lots of mitzvahs, we have the rabbis and the Talmud and the Old Torah tell us how to do it. And clearly, I think we can make the safe argument is that God's pretty reasonable, right? You know, and well,
That's debatable.
Maybe. But clearly everything is possible. Or the argument has to be that everything that is required of us is possible. Everything that is required of us is at least possible to achieve. Yep. Now, it might be difficult. No one's going to say that it's very easy to observe all mitzvahs and whatever, fulfill, kind of live the life that God's outlining for us in the Torah. But it's possible. Now, that premise, I think, is challenged by 3 mitzvahs that were commanded in the Torah. That's what I want to talk about tonight. There's 3 times in the Torah when we, as adherents to this doctrine, we are required to love. Number 1, Leviticus 19. Thou shalt love your fellow as yourself. Exactly. And that's a very, very famous verse because it was plagiarized by other religions, and it's the rallying cry of another religion, but it's originally in the Torah, Leviticus chapter 19. Right? There's actually a beginning to the pasuk. The verse actually starts, "Don't take revenge," and then it says, "You shall love your fellow as yourself. I am God." So that's the one time in the Torah we're commanded to love. So it means that everyone that you meet, everyone you encounter, you have to love them. Now the question that you're always asked: "Oh, wait a minute. What if someone's really, really, really bad? Do we love Hitler?" Oh, yeah, that's a question that we get all the time, and the answer is no. We're talking about people that are regular people like you and me, good people.
Lovable people. You can still love him as you bash him with a hammer. I love you.
So that's the first time in the Torah. Anyone knows the other 2 times that we're commanded to love in the Torah? Anyone knows?
Love the Lord thy God with all
Booyah.
your heart, with all your might, and all everything else.
Wow.
Shema.
That's in the Shema. It's another very, very famous verse. This is from Deuteronomy chapter 6. You shall love the Almighty your God with all your hearts, with all your soul, and with all your resources. And it says hearts, and why does it say hearts? It should have said with all your heart. How many hearts do you have? You have, multiple ventricles, but only one heart. So what's that referring to? So the rabbis and the Talmud tell us, the b'chol b'shnei yitzarech, it's referring to with both your inclinations. The heart is the inclination as well. So you have to love God not only with your good inclination, but with your bad inclination. The inclination that's trying to compel us to sin, that we have to love God with that. And what does that mean? And how do you love God with that? Oh, that's a discussion. But how do you love God? Exactly. That's exactly. So the Gemara says, the Talmud says that this is in tractate Brachot, which is the very first book of the 63 books of the Talmud. The very first one. You got it? You got a copy?
I thought I did, but I did not.
Brachot. It talks about. Anyone knows what it talks about? brachot.
Listen.
Blessings, exactly. So it also talks about prayers, various elements of prayers, and it's analyzing the Shema, and it says V'ahavta Hashem, you should love Hashem your God b'chol levavcha. So why is it? It should have said, if we know Hebrew, if b'chol libcha or something like that would be more proper if it was just one heart. So it says b'shnei yitzarecha, with both your yitzarim, both your inclinations, your positive and your negative inclination. That's what it says. So that's an additional time in the Torah we're required to love God. Obviously, it's somewhat different than to love a fellow, but we're required to love God. Anyone knows the last time in the Torah that it says what we're required to love? Anyone has any idea? Any guess?
What book?
It's in Deuteronomy chapter 10.
Is it your enemy?
No, we already talked about
Oh,
love
your
your enemy.
enemy?
Well, we didn't talk about enemies specifically. No,
Oh,
but it's
the Ger.
Booyah!
What do you say?
Good job.
Whoever that converts.
Convert.
Ah.
Right. So it says in Deuteronomy chapter I believe it's chapter 10. It says V'ahavta esager, you shall love the convert. Ki gerim hayisim be'eretz Mitzrayim, because you yourself
Stranger in your midst.
you were strangers, exactly.
In
Yeah.
in land where it was not your own or something.
Yeah.
It's good because
I'm
one
trying to
time
find
you're a
it.
stranger too.
It's too bad that's not normally practiced.
You think it's not practiced?
No.
What's that?
What do you mean?
Hmm?
What do you mean?
Love a convert? No, I didn't.
Okay, I'm not finding it here, but it's got to be here somewhere.
The religious stuff.
Whoa, whoa,
You think the
whoa,
whole
whoa.
thing doesn't love rich?
Maybe rich?
Well,
in general, it's not.
here we go. I am right. Sorry. It's chapter 10, verse 19. By the way, anyone knows where the origin of the chapters and verses are in the Torah?
Oh, these are
Not
non-Jewish.
It's not Jewish.
Yeah, it's
Oh, it's not?
non-Jewish.
It's now, I think it's from the Christians. The Christians came and they said, we're going to give order. We're going to make the book of Kings, King 1 and King 2, Samuel 1, Samuel 2, and chapters and verse numbers and everything like that. It's not actually...
No, the
They
whole
don't
thing
even
is
line up
one-
though.
one
They don't line
sentence.
up even between the two.
What do you mean?
They don't line up. So there, it could be a verse. They'll say verse 32 in theirs, but here in this
Yeah,
one
so,
it may be verse 34.
Yeah, so but it's still, I'm saying, even what we have today, so there may have been some divergence in the actual verses, but this is not of... It's funny because my grandfather was a great sage and author and whatever, and he never used to, whenever he used to quote a verse, he wouldn't give you the Christian chapter and verse number. He would actually say instead...
Character number 100,000.
No, he would say, let's say, he would say, excuse me, Eikev, which is the name of the parsha, Chamishi, which is the fifth portion that's read.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting. It's, I guess, I don't know. But it's been adopted. It's been widely adopted. Either way, so we have this turn. So someone made a claim that some people don't observe it, and my response to that is that if people don't observe it, then they're not observing part of the Torah. It's the kind of thing. Is, what do you call an observant Jew who eats pork on Yom Kippur?
Non-observant Jew.
Well, he's not fully observant,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they write on their Facebook religious thing, or how they label themselves. What it means is actually, if they claim to be observant, then they're claiming not part of a group, but rather part of a behavior.
I think
Like
the
Mike
nuances
Miller,
will
somebody
come
talk
from
about that.
what you call a convert. Right? That's where the problem will start. Everybody would say, yes, I love a convert. But different people would say, well...
Oh, you're
what-
saying
what did they
you're saying the whole the
But
debate
you're
as
saying,
to
yeah.
yeah.
you're
So that's
responsible.
it's a huge issue. It's a problem. And I don't think I know in Israel they have it much easier because there everything is united under one umbrella. Like the rabbinate is just they make all these decisions. So therefore, there's no questioning of marriages or divorce or all the religious element to civil life. Conversions, marriages, divorces, etc. Those are all overseen by one umbrella organization, And while it has its flaws, obviously, there's a certain benefit when there's uniformity. But like you point out that like today, and we don't like talking about factionalism, or different sects within our nation, because we're like a family, and like there shouldn't be politics in family, right?
And we are very particular, mishpucha.
Yeah. But unfortunately, you'll have sometimes where people, this conversion, or that conversion, what they require, what that require, and that creates a problem. That's a problem. Either way, this commandment is referring to loving a ger, whatever that means. It can mean, I think, a foreigner as well, because if you notice the way the Hebrew is written, V'ahavtem es hager, you should love the ger, ki gerim hayisim, because you were foreigners. The idea being, even though they could mean different things, one can mean a convert, one can mean an outsider or a foreigner, the idea being that you yourself once experienced what's it like to be the outsider. You were in Egypt and you didn't know the language and you experienced some xenophobia and you had to encounter what immigrants have to encounter. You don't know exactly what to do and the protocol, and you don't know how to drive on the left side of the street, right? So you want to experience that, and therefore it's important for you to be sensitive to someone who is also a newcomer, whether it means in the religious sense or just someone first day in school, new kid, or someone new to the neighborhood or whatever. So that's the third time in the Torah we're commanded to have love, and good job there, Ben, to pull that out. Now, there's a few problems. Problem number one. I think probably the first problem we'll say is that, hey, if we're commanded to love everyone, why is there a need to say you're commanded to love the convert? Is that a fair question? Mm-hmm. If the convert were to fall in under the category of your fellow, well, then it's already included in Leviticus. So why do we have to have a separate commandment to tell us to love the convert?
Where did the conversion process come from? I know, like Ruth, right? Was the first
from what was done at Mount Sinai. The whole process of the giving of the Torah and everything that they had to go through for the giving of the Torah was part of the conversion process.
But the conversion process, the conversion process today is different than back then.
No, it is, but that's where they got it from.
Okay, so what you're quoting, Tom is quoting, is the source that's brought down in the Talmud, very nicely in Maimonides, in I believe it's chapter 13 of Isurei Bia, which is in the book of Nashim, and there it says he makes the comparison between how the Jews became Jews at Mount Sinai and how Jews or non-Jews today, if they make the decision to join the tribe, they would have to follow the same kind of procedure. So it says, if someone decides they don't become Jewish, they want to lehitztofef tachas tzela shechina. It's very beautiful. Maimonides, he had such a way with words. So and someone wants to be enveloped under the wings of the Almighty. So someone makes a decision to join the nation and to be a Jew. Then he has to do. They have to do four things. Males had to do four things at Sinai. Those four things were, number one.
Is it in this? No.
What's
talk
that?
About it here,
certainly not. The guide for the perplexed? No, that would not. It would not be. It would be Mishnah Torah.
Oh, okay, I have that too.
The book is. Yeah, the book is called.
I want to put these things.
The book is called Nashim, which means laws of women. So those are marriage and divorce, and it talks. And this is in. Do you have it?
I don't have the.
You don't have that particular one. You have what?
I have the book of the mitzvot. I have.
Okay.
Sefer HaKarbanot.
Karbanot. Well, that wouldn't be. That's not one of it. It's not the one we're looking for.
There's
four.
You don't have Nashim for Dummies?
I don't have it in there.
So there's 14 books. That's why it's called also the Yad HaChazak. Either way, so he says four things. There's four qualifications that they had to do at Mount Sinai. Number one, that they accept upon themselves what it means to be a Jew, so all the responsibilities, all the requirements to join the mission, so to speak. That's number one. Number two, they had to have a circumcision. Number three, they had to bring a sacrifice. And number four, they had to go to a mikvah, to a ritual bath. Those are the four things. And women would have all those three, son one. And we don't do circumcision for women. We don't do circumcision for women. And then Maimonides says the next particular line is that, and even today, without the temple, we don't have sacrifices. That whole part of Jewish life is that we don't have it anymore. So we have just all the three. Besides that, someone's become Jewish, they have to accept upon themselves, have that desire to do it. They have to have the circumcision and the immersion in the mikvah.
So, number one, how do you describe that in further detail?
I'm sorry?
How do you describe the first one in further detail? The desire to...
Yes, so the
What does that
Talmud
mean?
spends a lot of time talking about that. The Talmud says that if someone decides that they will accept upon themselves the Torah, but not besides for this particular section or that particular section, that's not good. They have to accept the whole thing.
Do they have an opportunity to read it first?
Well,
Or is it like Obamacare?
No.
it's like Obama.
You didn't read it
You
at
do, then you
Sinai.
understand. Yeah, you do, then you understand.
Well,
I mean, are they agreeing to something before they know what it is?
We didn't.
so I'm saying
that's
this
a
is
good question.
Classical Jewish lawyer move.
that's a
Well,
good
read it
question.
first.
And the answer to the question is that it's a little more complex because
You have to pass it.
if
in
you
order to know
actually
what's in
look
it.
at the verses,
That's what-
one place it says we shall listen and then we shall do. Another place says we shall do and then we shall listen. One says nishma v'nasa, one says nashva nishma. It seems like there were multiple acceptances. And yes, it is very bizarre that a nation or a religion that prides itself on basing everything on intelligence and rational thought and everything could be explained, is understood. We don't have any leaps of faith, and everything is based upon intelligence. Yet there's a certain element of diving into it because there's a certain point in time where we're limited.
That's why so many became attorneys, because they got screwed. They won. They didn't read the contract.
That's right.
So
It's not. They read
so
it
yes,
so
the
complicated.
details of number one, that is the big debate. That's at the core of the big debate. So yes, there's a lot of literature, and if you want to read about it in the sources, I would advise you to read in the Talmud. There's a bunch of pages in the Talmud talking about
But
it,
the
the
accepted,
process.
or the most widely accepted view is we'll first do and then we'll understand, right? That's
Well, what's actually done today,
no, I know
is that-
reform. So I mean, they're different, right? The reform.
I've never done a conversion myself. I was,
No, but the accepted.
so I don't know what they do exactly.
Not just conversion. As a Jew.
Uh-huh.
That's the order, right? That is.
Well,
it's accepted as.
No, for conversion, you have...
No.
follow-
As a Jew, right? You do and then you understand. You can
Oh, you're saying as a Jew? Well, as a Jew, there's no way out. That's
You're in. You're done. That's it. You're locked up, buddy.
yeah, exactly. You could be
No,
baptized
because- no,
100
I'm
times.
saying.
Like
You may get wet, but you'll still be Jewish. Exactly.
Like
No,
observing the Sabbath.
I mean the.
Yeah.
You do
So
it,
and then you
and by
understand it.
doing
Or
it,
kashrut.
Then you
Why
begin to
not
understand
these
why you
animals?
do
And then you try
Yeah.
to
So
understand
that's
why.
but I believe that's an outlier. I agree with you 1,000%.
What did you say?
Oops, you're right.
Lady, okay.
I agree with you 1,000% that there are certain mitzvahs that in order to understand them, you have to experience them first. Shabbat would be an example of that, but I believe that's an outlier. I think most of the mitzvahs we can understand.
But there, I mean,
I could explain to you right now. It means some things.
Cooking.
Chutim, yeah, you're right. Cookies, what is
The
it?
ones that you,
Chutim, yes.
you actually, there's no way you can understand.
Yes, but you could also understand that your intelligence is not
Right,
equal to God. It means I can explain it to you. I can explain to you that you don't understand it, and that's okay. Right?
No, you
But
won't
we
it.
understand that, hey, if God exists, there's a very good likelihood that He is vastly more intelligent than we are. Right? Is that right?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
You said a
but we
bad
don't need
word.
that.
You
Of
said
course.
if.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm saying,
no,
but
you
in the
know,
argument,
right,
of
right,
course he exists. Of course. But the argument would be is that if the answer is yes, but in the argument means if we're going to present the argument, what that would entail. So if we're going to believe in God, we're clearly going to understand that He is vastly more intelligent than us, and therefore it's very easy for us to accept that. Okay, this is the mitzvah that God understands, and we don't.
Correct.
That's fine. But I think the majority of mitzvahs will say that we can understand them before we do them, or understand at least to a degree. We don't have to actually practice them to understand them. As opposed to Shabbos would be an exception. Either way, we worry. So conversion, is that what we're talking about? So the convert. Back to the text at hand. So we have 3 mitzvahs, and the question would be, hey, if someone's included in love everyone, well, that everyone is inclusive. Doesn't
What
say
is the word that they use for your fellow?
re'acha, reya,
Something must have happened.
Raya?
the word re'a.
Well, yeah, rules are created because things happen.
Something must have
I'm
happened,
sorry?
and we had to be reminded.
So it's that's a possibility.
All right. That's how rules are made.
Because that's why rules
I
are
think
made
about
now.
work, and I'm like, what?
Why is this
here?
rule here? Because somebody tried
Someone
to do
idiot
it.
did it.
So that's a possibility because especially in Deuteronomy there are some mitzvahs that are repeated. But it seems like it's a different mitzvah because, and remember, it's a different category. It's speaking about a different individual. If it was just a repetition, well, it would repeat the same thing. It's adding something clearly by the fact that it's using a different title for the individual, and it's specifying, saying love the convert or love the outsider, love the foreigner, because you yourself means it gives us a rationale for that as well. It doesn't give us any rationale when it says love the fellow. It doesn't say love the fellow because it's a good society, good for society, or because that's maybe they'll help you in the back end or whatever. It doesn't say any reason, which is also very intriguing.
I thought it said,
Well, we can look at the text.
no, I mean, like, in the beginning, though,
Pull out the books.
everything was made by God. So I thought
Yeah.
that was why you pull out the book.
Because they are in the image of God, so therefore
Yeah,
you should love them because they are in the image of God.
Well, maybe I'm saying that might be the reason. It doesn't say it. It doesn't say it over here. I quote.
Rashi
Ready?
talk of that? Doesn't in Rashi's commentaries?
We have.
We need your
Lo sita. Don't take revenge and don't bear a grudge. Es b'nei amecha. Members of your people. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your fellow as yourself. Ani Hashem. I am Hashem. It doesn't say in Rashi. It doesn't say.
Don't steal them.
It doesn't say in Rashi that that's the reason, image of God. And what does image of God even mean? I see you have a lot of books that may answer that question.
Yes.
It's like, uh-oh, on the spot now.
Anyway, go ahead.
The table's going to be filled.
So there it doesn't give a reason. It gives a reason why we should love the convert. It doesn't give us a reason why we should love
So
every
it's a
fellow.
trick question.
No, it wasn't a trick question. I'm just pointing out that it seems like there's multiple mitzvahs.
So we don't know why he says the third one.
Well, I'm asking the question. I have an answer. I'm
You do have
trying
an
to
answer.
present the question to.
So why does he say
It's a huh?
So what's the question?
So
Well,
ask the question again.
The question is like this.
Like this.
If a convert is included in Leviticus chapter 19, love your fellow as yourself, why do we need to repeat it again? Why do we need to have an additional mitzvah in Deuteronomy, love the convert? You already have to love the convert because he's included in love your fellow. That was the question. And then I add an additional question. Why in Deuteronomy, when we say love the fellow, we explain why you should love the fellow. I'm sorry, when I say love the convert, we say why you should love the convert. Love the convert because you yourself were a convert or a foreigner. As opposed to in Leviticus, where it says love your fellow. It doesn't say love your fellow because, it just says love your fellow. Don't ask questions.
So the convert, the fellow is when we go, possibly, I don't know the reason, but could be possibly that they're going to another land and that they're going to be people there, and they evidently end up making a covenant anyway with a near nation, and they shouldn't have, but they did, and they'll be a thorn in their side. But anyway, so they have to love their fellow, right? And they're going to be maybe servants in their home, and those servants in their home, love them as yourself, don't mistreat them, in other words, right? That could be the reason for the fellow. But the convert is that when they came out of Egypt, they brought some with them, some Egyptians with them,
Okay.
who decided to convert and wanted to follow, Hashem. instead of the Egyptians.
Therefore.
So then they're saying, hey, look, don't get mad. They want to convert. You don't let them and love them.
Okay, so that I think that's probably the simplest answer is that yes, there is a greater likelihood that you will not love someone who's a little different. He has a different background. He didn't grow up Jewish. He doesn't understand Yiddish words, right? So there's a likelihood, a tendency that you may have to maybe not love this person as much. Therefore, specifically the person that there's a likelihood that you may not love as much. That the Torah reminds you again, you better love the convert, and it gives you also a reason as well. That's probably the simplest answer. Okay, maybe. I have another answer what I'll try to introduce and see if you guys agree. Okay?
Ready?
Let's go.
We simply forget.
No, the first one, I mean, doesn't include any justification. So it's an unconditional kind of love that you have to have for everybody.
Yeah, so that's very inclusive. That includes everyone and
No, but you see-
not based upon a
But it's
reason.
not just inclusive, it's unconditional, right? It's
Mhm.
not because or it's something. It's one that kind of thing that you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
have a reason
It's
for.
just part of the deal.
Just is what it is. Okay, so
It
then
is what it is.
okay,
Is the
so
definition of
Let's
love
hear the real
different?
answer.
Huh?
Is the
Tell us.
definition of the love different?
well the
between
word's
two?
the same.
The word is
I like what you're thinking. Yeah. So those are the preliminary questions, but here is the main question. Okay. We started off by saying that God, when God's giving us a commandment, He obviously expects us to do it. We say God's pretty reasonable. If God created us, then God obviously knows our nature. Obviously, how could God command us to have? How could God command us to have an emotion? Every other mitzvah of the Torah. We'll put a mezuzah on your door, you got a mezuzah, right? Write a Torah scroll, you just write the Torah scroll. It's an action, right? Eat matzah, make matzah and eat it. Observe the Shabbat. Like, these are actions that we do and don't do,
These are physical too.
right? They're repeatable. It's possible to achieve it. There's a formula to doing it. Have an emotion. Well, what if I don't like the guy? Well, what if you don't like the guy or girl? Right? How could the Torah reasonably give us a mitzvah, a commandment to love everyone? It doesn't say love just the people that you kind of get along with. It doesn't say that. It says love everyone. And how much should I love him? Okay, I love him. I won't beat him up. As yourself. Whoa! I gotta love everyone. I gotta love them as myself. Clearly, I gotta love a lot of people a lot. We're in trouble because if you are a human, there's some people that get on your nerves, and that's okay. And we're commanded to love them, right? But you don't get along with everyone. Or maybe you do, but do you love everyone? You get along with everyone. You could be acquaintances, but you gotta love them. Love is a very heavy word. We're talking about an intense, seemingly, maybe this point's debatable, but an emotional feeling towards people, towards everyone. I am required to love all of you. Well, it doesn't seem like it's that difficult, but I mean everyone, right? Everyone you meet, you have to love them. You have to have positive feelings towards them. Where's the formula? What am I supposed to do? It has to be formulaic. There has to be some method. How could the Torah just say, 3 mitzvahs? Whoa! What do I do? What do I go about to love them? And then you look at Rashi. What does Rashi say? Ze klal gadol b'Torah. It quotes Rabbi Akiva as saying, this is a major principle of the Torah. So there's something very fundamental. Huh?
The rest is commentary.
Yes. No, you're right.
This is important than everything else.
Well, that's what I quoted in Rashi is Rabbi Akiva. What you quoted is Hillel. Hillel in anyone knows
He
what it's
cited Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah.
Hillel cited
well,
Rabbi
no,
Akiva.
he preceded Rabbi Akiva by 200 years, even more.
Shabbat Lamed Bet.
Very good. Well, Shabbat Lamed Aleph, but
Aleph Lamed Bet.
no, it's
No.
Lamed Aleph and Aleph. But that's fantastic. How do you know that?
It's in there somewhere.
No, don't argue with me. It's Lamed Aleph.
He's
That's
actually
right.
pretty good at remembering books and chapters.
It's Shabbat Lamed Aleph. Lamed Aleph. It means a story. It's a
You doing it.
Go on.
it brings a story of
You're
a.
going to lose miserably, I think.
So the guy comes to Shammai, Hillel's sparring mate, and says to him, teach me all of Torah on one leg.
On one leg.
He says, get out of here. What are you doing? Stop wasting my time. He goes to Hillel. He says, teach me all of Torah on one leg. So he says to him, "Da'alach sani lechavrecha lo savit," which is Aramaic for that you hate, don't do to your fellow. He says, this is the Torah. The rest is commentary. And that's a clear reference to our verse in Leviticus, love your fellows yourself. It's not exactly, and the commentators kind of try to ask, why didn't he just tell him, love your fellows yourself? That's it. Everything else is commentary. He kind of presents it, that you hate, don't do to someone else. He presents it from the negative. So that's a question that's asked. But that's another example where we see that this idea of having positive emotions towards everyone that you meet is something central, crucial, pivotal, vital, and essential to Judaism. Right? It's everything. It's the core of everything else in commentary. This is a klal gadol Torah, is a major principle of Torah. Says Rabbi Akiva. There's something very important about that. And it doesn't seem like there's any. Am I right or am I wrong, Ben?
I'm still.
You found it already.
Maybe I can change this on the computer.
Find it.
The vilification was a lot louder than the vindication.
Well, I'm still not.
I can't find it.
No, it's not there. It's not there.
So
The letters and chapters were never in the original anyway.
If that is to be an observant Jew,
Whoa, yeah,
if you have to love everyone,
yeah.
then there aren't many observant Jews left in this world.
Well,
Or all Jews are full of self-hatred.
So what? You started.
You love everyone else like you love yourself.
I'm saying.
There you go.
I like that answer.
I hate who I am, so therefore I hate you. You jerk.
So first of all, you were right. Mitzvah
Shalom.
And second of all, I was thinking earlier when you said, well, why do we need to love the convert if you love everyone? Because the same thing, it says earlier, love everyone like you love yourself. But what if you don't really love yourself? You still need to love the convert.
Maybe that's very interesting. Then
you brought the big bomb, the last question.
Yeah, I think that's
Takes
that's. Well,
So love has. I think,
no.
two
Okay.
components.
Okay. So this is I think the point that we have to address. Maybe when the Torah says you should love everyone, it doesn't mean you should have this emotional feeling. It means you should act. That's what that's a natural. You should act in a way of love, like a way loving people do that. It means be nice to them, like be loving to them, even though you don't have that emotion.
And many times that emotion actually comes from rational thought. I mean, if you focus on the negative of a person, you will most likely not love. But if you only focus on the good of a person, then you're more inclined to love that person. So if you focus your rational thought into the good things of that person, then you will be more inclined.
Ooh.
I
So,
think it's compassion.
your name is, what's your name?
Moshe Rabbeinu?
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Diego.
I thought so because I was on the phone. Yaakov Wolbe. Check me out on the internet. RabbiWolbe.com. Thank you. So I believe you're 1,000% right, and I have evidence to prove it. What Diego outlined is what I believe to be true, and I have evidence to prove it. What he outlined is a method that's repeatable that we could do with everyone that we encounter, and just like there's a method to make matzah and to how to chew it, and how to and there's a way to get a lulav and an etrog and shake it in a sukkah. These are things that we could do, and it's infallible. You just make a sukkah, you sit in the sukkah, and you fulfill the mitzvah. There's a method, an infallible method that we could do that's repeatable to love everyone. You outlined it, and I'll prove it. And in fact, but back to our previous point I'm sorry if we're just going a little non-linearly here. So maybe when we say that someone has to love, it just means you have to act towards them with love. That cannot be true because when we say you should love everyone like yourself, if the Torah wanted us to act towards everyone with love, even though we don't have that emotion, right? Torah's basically saying, hey, listen, you got to hold your nose tight and love them, despite the fact that it's difficult for you. The Torah should have told us, or the Torah shouldn't have made it absolutely clear that's not what it meant. Why? What does the Torah say? Love your fellow as yourself. Now, healthy people love themselves, and then you know what? It's clear that if someone does not love themselves, they're incapable of loving others. That's a side point here. If you don't love yourself, you to be incapable of others, because otherwise you're not a healthy person. Healthy people love themselves, and therefore they're capable of loving others. But why do you love yourself? Hey, healthy persons love themselves. Why do they love themselves? Is it because it's a mitzvah to love myself? I want to fulfill a mitzvah. The Almighty instructed me to love myself. Is that why you love yourself?
No, it's not. What is the mitzvah of loving yourself?
No, there is a mitzvah of loving yourself. That's my point. People love the health. People love themselves because
You only see the good in yourself.
Survival.
You can't see the bad in
Keep
yourself.
yourself alive.
is it so cerebral, or even little kids? I have a son who's 14 months old, and I assure you he loves himself. He's always trying to negotiate better terms. He wants the good food. He's focusing on self-love, right? Obviously, when things are when he has he gets ice cream, he smiles, and when he's upset and tired, he cries. When someone starts up with him, he obviously has emotions of love to himself, and that's a very good thing. We naturally have love towards ourselves. When the Torah tells us love your fellow as yourself, it doesn't say love them because the mitzvah to love them. Oh, okay, this is a Jew, and the Torah says I should love everyone. Therefore, I'm going to love them. No, it's just saying love them like yourself. You don't love yourself because it's a mitzvah. Love yourself just because that's a normal, healthy thing. You have to make sure that you achieve that a certain emotional level with other people, that you love them like you love yourself. It doesn't mean the same magnitude. Huh? The Talmud does declare in Bava Metzia 60. The Gemara that says Chayecha Kodmim, your life supersedes the life of others.
Is that Rabbi Akiva and Tigil walk in the desert?
That's very good. Where's that?
Shabbat Ayin Aleph.
Is that your guess? I believe it's in Bava Metzia 62.
62.
I believe 62a. But it might be Yuma 62a. It's for sure 62a. But the Talmud there says two people are walking, and they each have. There's a canister of water. I'm walking. We're in the desert. There's one canister of water. If we share the water, we're both going to die. If I drink the water,
You have to take it.
If you're in the desert,
yourself. Yourself. Why? Because your life supersedes others. But if we say I have to love everyone as much as I love myself, well,
you share.
how do I supersede them? The answer is that yes, of course, you love yourself more than someone else. When the Torah is saying you should love your fellow as yourself, it doesn't say as much as yourself. It says as yourself. It means in the same quality. Just like your love to yourself is not based upon a certain requirement to do so. There's no mitzvah that says you should love yourself. I don't instruct my kid to love yourself, and that's why he loves himself. He just naturally does that. That's to be the same kind of love that I have to have for someone else. I can't say that when the Torah says love your fellow, it doesn't mean an emotional love, a naturally occurring love. It means just act in a way of love. So what's the formula? So you said, Dieter says an answer, and the answer, I actually heard it first when I was teaching at Eish HaTorah in Israel before I moved to Houston. And there, the famous Rabbi Noach Weinberg, he used to always say, he did like this. Also a New Yorker, have a New Yorker accent. And he would say, you know what love is, huh? You know what love is? I'll tell you what love is. And he says it like 1,000 times a year, like probably 4 or 5 times, because he loved this idea. He had a definition of love. He says, I have a definition of love. This is wonderful. And his definition of love was the emotion, the pleasure one gets, the emotional pleasure one gets when he or she senses or experiences the good in someone else and identifies the person with those values or those virtues. I don't remember the exact wording. Basically, what he's saying is that love is when you see the good in someone else and you identify that person with those virtues, then you'll love them. And if you don't see the negative of someone else, well, then you won't love them.
So, tying this into like this week's parsha, what about his brothers and Joseph? How does that work out?
Well, that's an example. What did the brothers see in Joseph? What does it say in the beginning of the parsha, right? Right? They hated him and they couldn't think of anything good to say about him.
Right.
That's what it says. It's a great example. They couldn't think of anything. There was no redeeming quality. Joseph, right? Joseph, who in Jewish literature is called Yosef HaTzadik. He was the righteous. He's forever christened, if you will. Joseph the righteous. Remarkable individual, clearly, right? As the story plays out. This is a remarkable individual. His brothers can't find anything good about him. It's a great example. How could you not find something good about him? The point is, if their focus was isolated on just seeking out the negative, well, that's all they'll see. And to them, Joseph will look like this villain, that there's nothing good about him. And then they'll hate him. It's a great example. I didn't even think about that. But when I heard this definition of love, I was perplexed and flummoxed because that...
Big words.
Huh?
Big words.
Big words, yeah. Because there doesn't seem to be... He's like, this is the Jewish definition of love. I didn't have the guts to go over to him and ask him, hey, Rabbi Weinberg, definition of love, where's the source? Like, where does it say... Where does it say that this is the definition of love? Like, how do you give a Jewish definition of something, but that's unsourced? Especially like you're in yeshiva. There's so many books here. Like, is there anywhere that I can't think of any place that it says like Shabbos Ayin Aleph or Bamitzi? Where does it say that this is the definition of love?
I couldn't. Fortune cookie.
Fortune cookie. Hey, it sounds really nice, and I believe it's true. And and then I found the source. I found the source, and it's incontrovertible evidence. And we'll go back to our Bible scholar here. Ben, the Hebrew word for love. Huh?
Sure, I got the book open.
The Hebrew word for love is...
No.
Huh? Ochel means to eat.
Ohev.
Ohev, very good. Ahava, the word ohev. Where is the first time in the Torah that the word ahava or any variant of it, like he loved or she loved or they loved or it loved, where does that first appear in the Torah?
Here?
Right there.
Yeah, in the middle.
Before that.
In Genesis.
It's got to be in
It's got to be Genesis.
That's a pretty big.
It's got to be there, but
Sure, but
Yes, before Vayeshev. Before Vayeshev.
is it in
Everybody
Wonder if it's in the garden.
It's
the first? It's in the.
Was it Adam?
Adam,
No,
it's
he
fine.
loves
Don't-
the animal or names the animals.
No.
Before
It didn't
that?
love them. It didn't say anything about them.
Booyah. Yitzchak and...
I want to say
Oh,
when when
He loves his son?
Yes, he have Yaakov.
Okay.
and she,
Okay. V'Yaakov, v'Rivka have
No, the other
Yaakov.
way. So
Vayehav Yitzchak et Esav kitzayit befiv. V'Rivka ohevet et Yaakov. That's the verse
So
in
before
Torah.
that,
Even before that,
Asher ahavta et Yitzchak. Kachad michal et Asher ahavta et Yitzchak.
you know what? I think you're right. I think you're right.
So 1-1?
Let's see.
1-1.
No, 2-1.
2-1. Yes,
2-1.
It's so early, it's not even in this book.
It would be in Chayes. It would be in Vayera.
So early, it's not even found.
Vayera
You're right.
Shvi.
You're right.
Torah
You
Torah
are
Torah
right.
Torah.
Okay, so I'm wrong. Asher Ahavta. So it's that's right. That's right. Asher Ahavta.
That was Ramban.
Oh gosh. Asher Ahavta. You're absolutely right. Okay, so where's the second time? Okay. The time that very good. Thank you.
So
I
your response
stand
is still
corrected.
out the window.
I stand corrected. He's right. There's one place it shows up before the intended place. I see. I found it already.
Which one is the one?
It says by the binding of Isaac. It says Kachas bin Chas yichidcha asher ahavta Yitzchak v'leu lola al chad rima shamar leka b'shem Abraham b'boker v'yichvosh et chamro v'yikach shniro v'yivakatze ola. He also knows it. Okay. So now the second time. At least, maybe there's another place. I don't know. We better quickly say it before you find another place. Is
You're never going to come up again, are you?
He's like, forget it. I'm done. These bangs.
Isaac marries Rebecca. It says as follows. This is from the end of chapter 24. Vayeviyah Yitzchak ha'ola Sarah imo, and Isaac brought her, talking about Rebecca, to the tent of Sarah his mother. Vayitach es Rivka, he took Rivka, or Rebecca, Vatihilo leisha, and she was for him for a wife. They married. Vayahaveh, and he loved her. Vayinachem Yitzchak achar imo, and he was consoled after his mother. So we have a verse that talks about the marriage, wonderful, so romantic. They got married, and he brought her to the tent, and they loved her. Now there's a problem. There's a few problems in this verse. Problem number one is that we're talking about this budding romance of Isaac and Rebecca. And we're giving the description of their marriage and of their love for each other. And we mention Isaac's mother not once, but twice. This is like the ever-invasive mother-in-law, right? You have...
It's very Jewish, sorry.
It's very Jewish, right? The invasive mother-in-law. So, it's talking about Isaac married Rebekah. Sarah's been dead since the beginning of the Parsha. And now we're invoking Sarah multiple times in the verse talking about Rebekah and Isaac's marriage. It's like as if she's staring down upon them from heaven. It's bizarre. He brings her... Isaac brings Rebekah to his mother's tent. He marries her, and she is to him for a wife. He loves her. And then he's comforted, or he has consolation over his mother. He's probably very upset when his mother died. That's fairly recently. And now he has comfort. Now he has a wife, I guess. Very bizarre, very strange, very odd. So, the commentators, namely Rashi, explains to us why. That's the dog, right?
Yeah.
He's dreaming.
Yeah.
That's very convenient if we have Yosef here and the dog is dreaming.
Yeah, we'll just, yeah.
Are you going to interpret the dream?
Yeah.
So Rashi tells us that Sarah, remarkable woman. Right? Sarah was a woman of great character, a woman who, together with Abraham, introduced or developed an idea called monotheism, and introduced that and basically made a massive movement of this idea against tremendous headwinds. It seems from the commentary, from the sources, that Abraham and Sarah made a tremendous upheaval in the theological standing of their neighborhood and of their country. Really, I mean, these were powerhouse individuals, Abraham and Sarah. They changed the world. I once made the argument, and I stand by it, that Abraham was the most revolutionary reformer in history. He did more to change the trajectory or the direction of the world. I mean, the world that we have today, it's a world where everyone you talk to has, or almost everyone you talk to has some semblance, either they personally believe or they understand the idea of one God. Abraham emerges in a world where paganism is all that there is, and the idea of an invisible God, of one invisible God who doesn't have any parts, and not bound by time. Like, this idea changed the world, and he did not do it alone. Just Maimonides, if you want to look at, he gives a very nice Maimonides. He gives a very nice description of how they did it, but they made tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people, and they changed their world. And that was Abraham and Sarah. So Sarah's a remarkable woman. In fact, the Talmud says in multiple places, and the Torah itself says, that Abraham deferred to his wife Sarah on many occasions. Right? Sarah says, "Get rid of Ishmael." So Moses goes to the Abraham goes to the Almighty and says, "What do I do? My wife wants to expel my son from a different woman." So he says, "Kol mashe tomar alecha Sarah aseh." Everything that Sarah says to you, do. That was she superseded Abraham in level of prophecy. Right? This is a remarkable woman, and this woman, it was manifest in miracles that happen on an ongoing basis. And the three miracles are, number one, over her tent there was always this cloud that is a representation of the Shekhinah. Number two, there was a blessing in her dough. When she would make challah for Shabbat, she would make a little bit of challah and there'd be like 1,000 loaves. Miracle. And the last miracle that Rashi tells us that happened with Sarah was that the candles lasted from week to week. She would light Shabbat candles, and she would light them on Friday, and they wouldn't go out. They wouldn't extinguish till the following Friday. Miracle. And what happened? Sarah died. Or what happened to the miracles? They ceased as well. And now Isaac takes Rebekah into Sarah's tent. What happened? The miracles returned.
He lit her fire.
Yes. The miracles returned. That's why we're talking so much about Sarah. And what happens at the end? He was consoled because he realizes the character of his wife is the character, or rivals, or is on the same level as Sarah. And then what does it tell us? It tells us that he loved her. What it's telling us is this exact point. He brought her into Sarah's tent. She was able to live up to... She had the character and the qualities of someone like Sarah. And he loved her.
In his eyes.
Well, it doesn't say in his eyes.
Right, but that's the conversation is.
Well,
we have to be able to look at people and
yeah. So the
see
point.
and appreciate the good in them.
So what it indicates is that it says she was like Sarah, and he loved her. What the Torah is telling us, perhaps, is that this is this key that's going to unlock this problem for us. I would tell you multiple times in the Torah, you have to love your fellow, you have to love God, you have to love the converts, because you yourself were a foreigner in a foreign land. Where is the direction? Perhaps the direction is here. Go back to the second time that I said the word in the Torah, and there I also outline the methodologies and the approach and the tactics that you would use. Right? Isaac loved her. We know that he loved her because the Torah tells us. The Torah testifies that Isaac loved her. What does the Torah directly say directly before that? He brought her into the tent of Sarah. Why does it need to tell us this over here? He brought her into the tent of Sarah. How is this relevant to the core content of this verse? It doesn't seem to be. But we're illuminated when we realize is that those two things are linked. The reason why he became to love her is because he brought her into Sarah's tent. And she was able, and she demonstrated her qualities and her character.
So
that's why he loved her.
He would not have loved her if the miracles hadn't returned?
Well, I don't know. That's a hypothetical. Maybe we could ask Isaac next time he comes to visit us, or next time we could. I have no idea. All I know is what the Torah does say. Could we infer from this that he would not love her?
But does
I don't know.
Say that he loves her
Because
once the miracles returned, or he loves her and...
Well, it says. I could read the words here. I'll translate them word for word. And he brought her, Isaac, which means the way the Torah, that's the way the Hebrew is written. Isaac brought her to the tent of Sarah, his mother, and he took Rebecca, which means he married her. But Tehillah Isha, she became to him for as a wife, and he loved her, and he was consoled after Sarah.
So he married her first.
Maybe maybe she didn't light candles before she got married. I don't know. Yes, so it seems like there's a either way.
There's no causal relationship.
Well, I believe that there is.
Maybe we should go back to the first one.
What's that?
Well, you're talking about the second.
Oh,
Maybe we should go back to Ben.
I was thinking that's a very nice thing that Yitzchak said to Rebecca. I love you because you look like my mom. That's what every woman wants to hear.
Yeah, right?
We all marry our mothers, right?
Yes.
But I also think that there's a difference. So this doctrine that Diego here is presenting, I believe that it's true for all relationships, including parents to children relationship. But remember, the first time we said love was Abraham loving Isaac. Is that right? Abraham was a parent. And parents naturally love their kids, even if the kids have absolutely no redeeming qualities. And I know my kids were absolute brats when they were born. Why? Because they're totally the most selfish people I've ever met were my kids when they were young. Why? Because that's what babies are. Babies are super selfish. If I am tired or if I am hungry in the middle of the night, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to scream on top of my lungs until I get fed. How selfish is that? Very, very, very selfish indeed. Right? Kids are born as brats, yet parents love them.
Brat?
Right? So I believe that perhaps the love of a parent is a little bit less. It means I think that the Almighty did that. The Almighty instilled a capacity or a tendency for parents to automatically love their kids, because otherwise the kids would die of starvation, because they don't have. Means you don't establish love with your kids the same way you would establish with a foreigner. You love them from the onset, even if there's really nothing to love. Because that's what the Almighty does. So Abraham
Rebecca,
loving Isaac is not a love that developed
are you
necessarily.
considering Rebecca a foreigner because she was outside his family?
Maybe, but she was someone that he had to learn to love her, because he wasn't her father, obviously. As opposed to the love of Abraham to Isaac, I believe that could have been more biological.
So the foreigner to you is anybody outside?
Yeah, I mean, someone you
familial
introduced.
lineage.
Yes. So what I wanted to point out is that perhaps this is the source this idea that I believe to be true, and Rabbi Weinberg touted as the definition of love, perhaps that is sourced over here. And like we said prior to that, it's also in our parsha that Isaac's demonstrating to us, hey, I loved Rebecca. Why did I love Rebecca? Because I saw her qualities.
Well,
You want to love
do you-
someone else?
Do you? This is a question.
Yeah.
Rebecca has the same qualities as Sarah.
We don't know, but we do know is
I
that.
mean,
in his eyes.
Oh,
I mean, from some
He's so
the
similar.
readings.
They have these similar qualities.
Well, some of the readings that we see.
Well,
like,
it
Rebecca's from Laban, right? Laban.
That's her brother.
Yeah, then he's wicked. and
Well,
you
where
see,
did
like-
Sarah come from exactly?
I know. Well, huh?
Where did Sarah come from?
She was from the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah,
Well,
she also
everyone was from the
converted.
wrong. Abraham himself was from the wrong
There
side of
were
the tracks.
no Jews in the
There were no tracks.
What's interesting is that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all three of them married first cousins. You guys know that?
What?
Yeah, that's right, because that was his.
Abraham married Sarah was Abraham's first cousin.
Yeah. That's right.
Abraham's dad was a fellow by the name of Nachar, and he had a brother named Haran, whose daughter was Yiska, and who's really Sarah, but she's called Yiska because she's Suka Beruach HaKodesh, because or Shakal Sakim Yafia. The Talmud gives us two reasons why she was called Yiska: either because she was the word everyone delighted in her beauty; she was really a real stunner. Or she was like enveloped in prophecy. She was just either way. He married his first cousin Isaac as well. Isaac married. Well, did he marry his first cousin? Well, Rebecca is
Laban's
yes. Laban's
daughter.
no. Rebecca is Laban's Bethuel's daughter. But how's Bethuel related? He's related. Maybe he was his cousin once removed. I think so. Bethuel was the son of Bethuel was the son of. I don't remember exactly. We can look at the verses. Let's see. I'll tell you exactly. Sorry. She. Yes. Yes, they were first cousins. This is 24. She was the daughter of Besuel, the son of Milcah, who was the daughter of Nahor. So she was a first cousin once removed. Thank you. So the first cousin once removed, and Jacob married also his first cousin. But either way, a love of someone to someone else has to be developed, and it seems like what the description of Isaac's love for Rebecca would very much fall in line with what Diego was saying, that if you choose to focus, everyone is a collection of positive and negative character. I have a great story. I was in, my wife's from Canada, and so we were there.
She still has positives.
Oh yeah.
We accept Argentinians too. I mean,
Yeah.
That's why
We
I
accept all
Canada,
kinds.
you know.
So, well, she's dual citizenship. So we were in Canada for the summer. Was it the summer or I don't know? It was Pesach. It was the summer. It was the summer, and I was there. I was davening in shul on Shabbat, and I brought my kids with me to shul. A, because I think it's a good experience for them to have, and B, because otherwise they'll tear the house apart. So my kids very rambunctious. I love when they're running around, whatever, fine. And then for like about
Rambunctious.
rambunctious.
Yeah,
Well,
you haven't seen my kid.
Oh, you haven't seen his?
Yeah.
No.
I would do
They'll run
circles.
circles around your kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take 3
I'll
kids
accept
to
that.
equal one of his.
So they're running around, and then for about 1 minute, he came and sat next to me, like it was like pew style, in pews. So he's sitting next to me, and there's a lot of kids in the shul, and there's a kid in front of him, and the kid has a comic, not really a comic strip, but like a comic book, like lots of pictures. So my kid's standing right next to me, and he's looking at the book, and the kid like directly in front of us, who's sitting on the table. So he's standing, so he's right there, and then so he's looking for maybe 6 seconds, and the girl notices that there's a little boy about her age, 5, 6, whatever, who's looking at the pictures behind her. So it was very interesting. She takes the book, so she's like this, and she pivots to the side so he can't see him. And then she's looking at the pictures, and then she looks up to make sure that he can't see. And he had already ran away, and he whatever. And I, as an observant Jew, I noticed it, observant. That was a joke. No one gets it.
Yeah.
Okay. Observant.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a joke. So I noticed that, and to me it was very interesting. Like, we believe that everyone is born with a certain amount of positive and a certain amount of negative character.
You have to teach the kids no.
If anyone who has multiple kids, you'll know that no two kids are different. They have different collection of qualities. So every human is really this basket of positive and negative. Hence, when the Torah tells us to love everyone, what it's telling us is that everyone is capable of being loved, because there's something good about everyone that if you are to focus on, then you love them. And similarly, there's a way for someone to dislove or hate every person, because if you just focus on the negative, well, everyone has a certain measure of negative character as well, and therefore you'll end up hating them. So really, it's a decision, it's a habit that if we develop, when the Torah is telling us you should love your fellow as yourself, what it's telling us, you have to develop this habit of seeking out the good in someone else. Because once you do that, every person you meet, you say, hey, this guy has this quality, and this guy has that quality, and this girl has that quality, right? And everyone has something admirable that you could learn, that you could respect, and that you could use if you identify that person with those qualities as something that would make you love them.
Actually, this reminds me of just what Rebbe Schneerson said about what would be the
flip
other
side?
of it. Yeah. If you have something to criticize about the other, right? And this is again, love your neighbors as yourself. First, criticize yourself. Sit down and criticize all your defects so loud so that the other person can hear you. Then they will change. So even if in order to criticize another, first look at your own, and then when you improve, people will improve. So that's kind of the other side.
It says when you see something wrong with someone else, it's because you yourself have something.
See, that's you guys are like all experts in that's the Baal in the mirror, right? That's the one thing that I know. I'm very ignorant in matters of Chassidut, but that's the one thing that I know. How do I know it? Because my grandfather wrote it in one of his books. I don't know. Did Baal write book? I'm sure he did write books. I don't know. I never read it. I don't think he did actually. So he described everything as being a mirror, that whatever character flaws you see in other people, that's a reflection of what you yourself need to work on. It's kind of like this internal flashlight that's able to open up a window within yourself and your collection of characteristics and see exactly what it is that you need to work on. But either way, what was I going to say? Oh, so we say, Ezeu Chacham. Who is a wise person? Halomed mikol adam.
Who can learn from everybody.
Who learn from everybody. The idea being is that because we're each individual creations of the Almighty, we each have this little stamp. We're different, right? We're unique. The Talmud implores us to say that the world's created for me. I'm different. I'm special. I'm unique. I'm an individual. Therefore, there's something about every person that I encounter that they have some sort of benefit that I don't. Right? We're each a mixed bag. And the wise person, who is the person that achieves perfection, that's someone who learns from everyone. Because their attitude is, okay, this person has something that I can learn from and I can improve myself. And when I assemble all the qualities of all the people I know and I try to integrate that into my character, then I become the perfect person. Because I learn to address every one of my shortcomings and to acquire all the positive qualities of all the people I encounter. And by doing that, not only will I love most people, because I'm learning they're remarkable. This person's patient. This person doesn't get angry. This person is very kind and very nice. This person is very intelligent. Right? Everyone has something that they could teach. Right? Everyone has something that they're better than you at. Something, and you'll love them and you'll be able to learn from them. And I think that's a formula. And I also think that when we talk about how or the the mechanics of how we go about acquiring love. The flip side of that, conversely, the way relationships break down is also in this area. When two people who are in a relationship of love and they seeing the good in someone else and they just see the bad, well, then the love is going to stop as well, because that's the cause of the love. The love is caused has a foundation. The foundation is that they have this recognition of each other's positive qualities. But if I dwell and I spend time and I contemplate and I ponder the negative of someone else, well, that love will erode as well.
So going to the parsha, that the
Yes.
brothers could not see anything.
So that's
Now,
remarkable. They couldn't find anything positive about it.
But you said something, right? We learn how to love somebody, the expressional part. Fast forward, then they learn how to love yourself when they meet in Egypt. Right? Finally, they meet them, and then they realize that they loved him, and they all hug. And
They could not
live
speak to
ever
him
after.
peaceably. Yeah,
They learn how to love him, what to find good about him.
yeah.
After they saw him.
We have a
Feeding them. Yeah. Thank you. My stomach's full. You know what? I love you.
I wanted to. I don't know if there's a time table here, or I could probably speak for another 16 hours on the subject.
Okay, keep going.
So
We could do
okay,
a Simchat Torah kind of thing.
yeah, we'll do it till tomorrow.
Yeah, it's, so
What-
you have a drive right now.
That's fine. Let's say one more quick point, and that is that when you look at the verse that says you should love the convert, it says you love the convert because you yourself were a convert in another land. I think what it's telling us is perhaps not merely another mitzvah, but we said it's a mitzvah, but it also gives us a reason. Perhaps that reason is also another method that we could use. One method we can use to love someone is to say what the qualities are. Another method is empathy. It's to feel what they're going through. And to ask yourself, try to put yourself in someone else's shoes and say, okay, this person is a newcomer. He's an outsider. He feels out of place. He means he or she. So they feel out of place. I felt that before. I was once the outsider. I was once I was the only guy who I never met anyone, and I walked into the room. I didn't know where things were and what the protocol was and what page to turn in the book. Or right, everyone has had that experience in their lives. If you want to love the convert, you have to dig into your own personal repertoire or a collection of experiences and try to figure out what that person is going through. And if you try to see the world through their vision, through their lens, through their insight, try to imagine yourself in their shoes, and you empathize with them. You say, oh, this person's going through something that's really bad. I myself once went through that as well.
But it's interesting
That is another
they
method that you would
the word
use.
Convert. There's so many other words that could have been used.
No. So that's why if we roll back the tape, we'll hear that I said it's not merely. Yes, I believe that there is another mitzvah. There's a special mitzvah in the Torah. I believe that when Maimonides has the book of mitzvahs, he enumerates the 613 mitzvahs, because the Talmud tells us that there's 613 mitzvahs, right? That's established, but it doesn't actually count them out for us. And that's why you have a book like Maimonides, and Maimonides, the great organizer, or perhaps the greatest organizer, whose feats are so vast and remarkable. He said, I'm going to go about and organize them. So he counts all of them. And he has a book called the Book of Mitzvahs. He goes to Mitzvah 1, Mitzvah 2, Mitzvah 3, and he gives you the verse. And he has his 613. Exactly. Right, 248 positive and 365 negative. But if you look at Ramban, Nachmanides, and those names sound similar, but they're different people who lived like 100 years apart from each other. He has his rebuttals, and he has a whole different list of 600. And there's different lists of 600. They're all 613, and they all agree what mitzvahs are mitzvahs. The question is, what are the 613 categories? Because, like, a common example or a classic example would be is the mitzvah of prayer. Every day a mitzvah or not? Is it a mitzvah every day? Is it a mitzvah only during the time of danger? According to the Ramban, it's a mitzvah. The mitzvah of
If you have to run or you have to pray.
no. Oh, if you're in danger, there's a mitzvah to pray.
What?
Yeah, it's a mitzvah from the Torah to pray when you're in need of help. So when the Rambam does enumerate the mitzvahs, I do believe that there's a separate mitzvah for loving the convert. So I believe that yes, there is. I'm sorry.
I thought that was from Ramban that he was saying the prayer, his morning prayers, and people interpret that as saying a prayer when you're going to die.
Who says when you're going to die? Oh, you mean when you're in danger?
Yeah.
Ramban or Rambam?
I don't remember where it is. He was saying his morning prayer. He happened to be saying his morning prayers when he was going to.
He was going to.
When he was going to.
So the morning prayer is Yosef. Who is the morning? Yosef.
Abraham. Abraham's the family. That's right.
Yeah.
Either way, my point is that yes, there's a separate mitzvah to love the convert. There's a mitzvah to love every fellow, and the mitzvah to love the convert. But I think the addendum to the mitzvah for your converts, it's not. I think we could perhaps deduce from that it's not just a reason for it, because if it was just a reason, if the Torah needs to give reasons, then let it give reasons for the first time. Leviticus, where it told us to love our fellow, there it doesn't tell us the reason. I think perhaps we could say that it's not merely a reason, rather it's also giving us a method, and that be a method of empathy. That if
then why, from a rabbinic standpoint, don't the Orthodox and the Hasidic Jews consider converts equals?
Who says that's true?
They do not. You
Means I challenge your assumption.
Go to New York.
Yeah, I don't think it's
No,
true.
I'm saying I think his assumption's correct. Go to New York. They don't accept converts very easily, and when they do,
Whoa.
once
Accept
they
converts,
convert, once
accept
they
them
convert,
as converts.
The question is how you convert.
Means they make it difficult to convert, because that's
even when they're converts.
well,
they're-
like this. There is one community in New York, and it's not the Hasidic community. It's a different community which will remain unnamed. But there's one community. It's a surprising, because it's not a very.
It's not Shalom Cypress North, is it?
I don't know. But there is one community in New York that they expressly not mistreat, but they don't allow converts into their community. And in fact, if someone were to marry a convert, they would be excommunicated from the community.
Okay,
And
so
the reason,
there's my challenge.
but
There's one out
I'm
of
saying the reason why they did that was because there were a lot of members of that community, and it's not a community that you would imagine to be that. It's not a very observant community at all. And the reason why they did that was to prevent. A lot of people wanted to immigrate to the United States, and they would marry non-Jews and convert them in order to gain a legal status back in the 30s. So therefore, they said, if your wife is a convert, right, you have no place in our community. But it was done as a preventative measure to make sure that people wouldn't just convert the first non-Jew they met, just in order to marry them to get papers. But that's an isolated incident. It's a tiny community.
No, but generally speaking,
it's a tiny community.
We see
Now,
a lot of discrimination of kids in schools and like.
yeah.
kids
So
with
remember,
converts and- even though
who's
our
we? Do you know
accepted
an example of that?
community-
You know an example of that?
Of what?
I'm saying I challenge the assumption. I don't know that to be true. Now, if it was true, then I'm not going to try to justify it, because we don't justify and we don't defend the indefensible, right? It's true. And if someone encroaches on the mitzvah of loving a convert, they're encroaching on a mitzvah just like any other mitzvah.
So Rabbi, I'm just curious.
Yes.
So in your travels and your dealings,
My travels.
Yeah.
And you're
Wandering Jews.
You're wandering.
Yes.
You're a wanderer.
doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But seriously, you don't see communities treat converts different.
Listen, I know in
than-
Israel there's a lot of.
Israelis.
That's correct. But there's a lot of discrimination against Sephardic Jews.
But they are not challenged to be non-Jews.
That's
They're-
true. That's true.
Huh? No, I'm Ashkenazi.
No.
You look like a.
Now, do I think
My
that
best friend
that's
is
that's
Sephardic.
right? No. Do I think that anyone, and there is that. So if you want to read up about that, it's a much bigger issue. But where's their discrimination against converts? I don't know where that is.
But
Yeah,
doesn't it talk about
Where do you see it?
You should love them
Where do
more.
you see it?
I saw it when I was
Some
living in
songs.
New York. A lot.
Where?
In Brooklyn.
What they do?
What did you see?
What do you do? They ostracize you. Like my uncle converted.
Who is this? Who ostracized you?
The Jewish community.
Why would they ostracize someone who converts?
So
It's
why
bizarre.
He converted?
I've never seen
He
that.
converted
Yeah,
to
thank you.
what?
I've never seen that
Converted
even in
halal?
Manhattan.
He converted. He's a
People,
black hat.
they come to you and they
And
welcome
in
you.
their community,
But
when
that's
he
the
converted,
same.
they kind of.
The Hasidus don't.
Yeah,
well,
they-
that's not a
What
good
do
thing.
they-
because
they
Why-
vote him
why
for
would they,
99?
I don't know the reasons why.
And how does it manifest? Maybe it's in his head. How does
It's
it
not
manifest?
in his
Oh, so
head.
how does it manifest? How does it manifest? I'm not trying to.
I'm just
please,
curious.
I'm not here defending people that are doing things that
Well,
are, like I don't feel like I have any affiliation with any, like, to me I'm appalled if there was a wholesale discrimination against converts. I know for a fact that converts have a hard time converting. When I was in Israel, there was this one guy who was so genuine and so dedicated, and he was real, like, and they gave him such problems. Said come back in a year, and he went to yeshiva and he was studying, but he's not Jewish, so he would, and the Talmud says that if someone's not Jewish, they cannot observe Shabbat. So he had a problem, like, what do we do? So he would smoke a cigarette every Shabbat, like in quietly when no one was watching. It was, it took him 4 years to convert. That I know that exists, giving a hard time for people to convert. But once they're converted and I'm not familiar with that. And everyone seems to assume that this is a given. I don't know. Maybe it is a given. I'm not aware of that. And now, if it is, so that's a mistake. So why we need to defend that? We don't need to defend
No,
that.
I'm just curious because, like, from my this
Yeah.
short of exposure to it, I see quite the opposite. I
Okay.
see more non-acceptance than acceptance.
And if you see that, then that's terrible, and that's encroaching on a mitzvah. And I say this mitzvah, if there's a mitzvah in the Torah, it's a mitzvah from the Almighty, and the Almighty is telling us not to discriminate, or in fact love them. And there's it's very bizarre. But do you have any examples, any tangible examples, or?
You mean tangible examples of my uncle?
Yeah, or whatever. I'm saying we're making a claim against a lot of people, a generalization.
Get him on the phone and he can give specific examples.
Okay, whatever. Either way, so yes, there's no justification for it. And if someone says, "Hey, why there?" I once saw in the New York Post that there was an Orthodox guy and he was convicted or indicted on embezzlement. How could it be that someone could masquerade as an observant Jew and be so sanctimonious and right? And you know what? If someone committed a crime, well, then they're not acting with the Torah outlines for us. I don't care what they look like and how thick their beard is. It doesn't matter. We have a Torah. That's what we use. That's our instruction book from the Almighty. If someone does against that, why should we defend that? I don't understand. We're not defending that. There's no defending the indefensible. Now, like I said, there is this one community that has a policy that they developed a long time ago. And I have a friend. Part of the name of the community is anything. It's a Syrian community in New York. No, in New York, the Syrian community in New York. They're very close, right? But I have a friend whose mother converted. This is my friend. His mother converted, and he said the family was ostracized. They were pariahified in the community because converts are not allowed, and no matter how legitimate. And I don't know what I'm saying they have a justification. Like I said, they have a justification, and there was a reason why. And I'm not going to question that decision because it makes a lot of sense if that was a real problem. But I don't know of any other policy against converts, and if there is, then I'm saying it's
Love them even more.
it's a mitzvah Torah. You have to go to the Talmud.
Even in the Song of Songs, right? It talks about two different relationships, like a marriage relationship, and then one is a marriage relationship, so the love is different than the relationship between. What is it? I can't remember two relationships anymore. One's marriage, one's like a.
From God.
My daughter, I've forgotten you. You're my son. You're my daughter. You're like a kid to me. But then the other one's a marriage relationship, so it's more loving. So they equate the than the natural one being born into. You're part of the family already. You're my kid. Hey, yo, you're my son. You know, now you're my wife. It's a different type of love. So they have, so they talk about the two different types of love, right? And Song of Songs, I think it's there. Anyway, they talk about the two different relationships, and they equate that back to the convert and then the born Jew.
So there's no justification. We're not going to defend them. If this exists, but I don't. I'm saying it's a generalization, and I'm not familiar with anything besides what I said. Yes.
Why isn't Joseph a patriarch?
Why is it? Oh, that's a good question. Why isn't Yosef one of the patriarchs? That's a very good question. And but what's interesting about it is that Joseph or Yosef is somewhat on a higher level than his brothers. Like Nazir Achav, he's called the distinct one of his brothers, and he's the one whose kids are tribes. Means he's basically a level up from the tribes because his progeny was able to be tribes, as opposed to all the other members of his family, all of the brothers. They themselves were tribes. They were at the level of a tribe, and Joseph and their kids were not. But Joseph, he was on a higher level that his kids were at their level. It's a very good question. We don't say okay Yosef. It seems like Joseph. Yes, Joseph was somewhat of a bridge. He was like somewhere between the level of a patriarch, but but on a higher level than the tribes, and that's why he's two tribes. He's able to, what distinguishes the patriarchs is they're called markavta the Shechina. The Talmud says there's a certain level of, I guess, familiarity that they had with God that no one else had, and that's why the Talmud says no one else, even Moses. We can't say that Moses Elokim Moshe. It's probably due to the fact that we know Moses is the greatest man that ever lived. He was the only greatest man that ever lived. Yet, it's probably due to the fact that they were the originators of the idea that is Judaism, an idea that is monotheism, as opposed to Moses was kind of born into it, even though he superseded them in his greatness and his prophecy is unrivaled by anyone else. There's no greater man that ever lived, and his prophecy it was much greater than Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Still, with regards to the idea of being the founders, so to speak, of our religion, it's only those three.
What's it, Yosef, I read it in the Midrash. The Midrash talks about
Technicolor code.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Midrash says.
So the Midrash, I don't know if it's in the Midrash or when Rashi talks about it, but they said that Yosef was supposed to be the father of the 12 tribes, but because of the relationship or whatever, because he was so young, that he eliminated his 10 seeds, and because of the spillage of the 10 seeds, he could only have the 2 that were then adopted into the tribe and became 2 of the tribes. I don't know if it's a Midrash or where. I don't remember.
The Gemara about it talks about his finger was coming out of his fingers.
Yeah, the 10 fingers.
Yeah, and it came into the ground.
What was that?
That is I don't remember where it is. I know it's on the second. It's on the Amud Beis. It's on the second side of the page. Where it is exactly that I think I know where it is the page, but I don't know which page it's on. So it's very useful.
Maybe because
I narrowed it down to about 1,300 pages.
Oh, good. Good.
But once we get the page, I'll tell you where it is.
So would that possibly be a reason why?
Maybe. Very interesting. Yes. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for welcoming me here.
Yes.
It was a total pleasure, and I'd love to come back if I get invited back.
Yes.
Were you engaged enough?
Huh? Fantastic. My best group.
Is he allowed to come back?
Or?
Is Ben allowed to come back?
Ben's encouraged to come back.